Hi, John Harbaugh here with the Harbaugh Coaching Academy. The importance of coaches in the lives of young athletes can never be underestimated, especially today. I hope you enjoy the valuable, practical insights in this interview with our expert coach. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, can you tell us how you and Pete Carroll went into an office and came up with the cover three?
Well, I would love to say that I was a big part of that, but Pete had such an amazing teaching philosophy, and that would have been one of the things that I admired about him most, about some concepts. And so before we even taught one specific defense, this would be a concepts and some things that we would play and some techniques we would use. And the less we did, the better we actually got at some things. So it was not an example of putting in 30 defenses. It was a small amount done really well. And I think the cover three portion of that is a accurate assessment of that, because we knew the intricate things of what were the strengths of it, what were the weaknesses of it, and also the ways that people would try to attack it. And I thought him teaching at the beginning and having the discipline to teach over and over again was one of the greatest coaching lessons for me.
Well, what's some of the magic in trying to match the personnel you have?
Yes.
Versus getting personnel to fit what it is that you're trying to do?
Way more so of what a player can do versus what they can't do. And so we were so fortunate to have some of these players in Seattle that were so unique. And even like at the safety position, the difference between Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor, as physical skill sets, they were so different. From a mentality standpoint, they were the same. It was like absolute alpha competitors willing to go to any length to prove that competitiveness, the standard they wanted to play with. But we featured them in much different ways to allow both of them to fully express how they do that. I think Pete's influence at San Francisco, and I followed him there just a short while later, was really through Coach Walsh and finding the unique things that players can do and then putting them in spots to do it.
It's a wonderful way to say it. The unique things they can do, as
Yes.
opposed to Cam is a tweener. We're not sure what
Yes.
he actually is.
But when we wanted to put him down by the line of scrimmage, that's where he made his mark felt, and we called them Hokie rules. He went to Virginia Tech. And so there were some things that were just specific to Longhorn coverage that was just, for Earl. And so Richard being down by the line of scrimmage, or Brandon Browner, who was 6'4" and, over 220 pounds and so strong that he had these long arms to say, put Brandon at the line. And so I learned a lot from Pete in that way, to find things that a player can do. And it really kind of always has stayed with me, whether it's an offensive player or a defensive player. What can they do? And then how would we as coaches put them into those spots to do that?
So that's a tremendous segue. When you think about those days, those Legion of Boom days, is there something, either personality-wise or schematically, that you've tried to replicate everywhere that you've been since?
The competitive nature of that group, it just stood out to me. It was everything that I loved about football: the toughness, the competitiveness, the communication, and the standards that were set to play really well, game in and game out, not give one team more regard than another. And so I think that was one of the reasons that the defense played so well, is every week we were ready to get it on. Whether the team had a winning record, a losing record, that really didn't matter. It was to the standard we wanted to play at. And so I think that level-headed approach, but just being rock solid and tough, and they're going to have to beat us doing some things really well, because we know this part of our game inside out.
So you needed alphas, basically. Everywhere you go, you want a
we
guy
would
who's
like
going to
that.
run over his mother.
But they would also really battle for one another. And I think that is one of the fun parts of playing our sport, knowing that you are playing, for something bigger than yourself. And I know from my own experience, I haven't done many things that have been big accomplishments alone. They've been part of something together. And so the more they knew that and could feed off one another, and the competitive energy that would go on even at practice we were right on the edge, and I loved that all the time, but they were also very connected as a group.
Okay, let's switch to being a head coach. When you think about having set a culture in Washington, how similar, how different is it to the culture that you initially set in Atlanta?
That's an awesome question. It's both. And I'll say that for this reason. Sometimes people would see me, or Pete for that instance, and get culture and environment confused. I don't think they're the same at all. An environment can be somewhere where there's good energy and very upbeat, but the culture is how you do things day to day, like your behavior as a group, as a team, and how you do things, especially when no one's watching. And I thought the team in Washington has developed such a great culture around how they get down every day, the work they put in together, and they absolutely have a blast doing it together. So finding that balance, if you have just a great environment, that might be a lot of fun to be a part of, but like we're all there to win. And if you had a culture that was not as fun to be around, you probably wouldn't get as close and connected and want to stay there longer and do things together. So I think finding that razor's edge balance be with environment and culture, and if you can mix them just right, which is really hard to do, you'll find the good locker rooms play well when they all get together out on the field.
But you're giving advice to coaches. You
Yes.
did it. You engendered it in 1 year. If you think about it, it takes at least 2 or 3 years to fully turn a roster. In 1 year, you got these guys to play hard and have fun.
I said, we will get really good, but it depends on us, like how close we can get. If it takes us a year to get close, it'll probably take us a year to get good. If we fast track those times and relationships and our time together, we can get there faster, but it will be up to us. And the faster we can build those connections, the better. And you need them because you know this. There's going to be adversity. There's going to be difficult times. You're going to lose a couple games in a row. It's on those times that you lean into it. Because if you haven't built a strong connection and culture, when those times do come, it kind of frays. But if you have a group, they're ready to stay in, because when outside walls or noise is happening, they'll stay connected and tight and work their way through it, because that's the one part about our game, like adversity, and it's going to come. And the more resilient team, they better be connected, because if they're not, it'll get fragmented easily.
Do you feel you as a coach of grown professional millionaires can force activities to force that closeness?
Yes, and it's not mandatory fun or, like a field trip.
You will laugh today.
Yeah, or a field trip that happens on one day. I'll know it's going right. A team meeting's about to begin, and you'll hear everybody talking and enjoying. I might just wait outside for a minute, just knowing that's their space. I'm feeling them connect, doing their things. I'll see that at practice, of people staying after, wanting to do the things because they're invested in one another. And if we can create that type of environment, that's our role as coaches, to create an environment where like this learning and competing and connecting takes place. And if we could do a really good job of creating that environment, then we'll allow that to develop.
Rookie quarterback. What's the most important thing that a rookie quarterback needs to repeatedly hear from his head coach?
Let's not miss one step in that rookie's development. So if that means the install doesn't go exactly like planned, that's okay. And it would be so important to find the things that they do really well and build from that first. And then let's build around them. I don't think they need to be the leader right away. They need to do their role really well. And if we build around them and don't miss any steps in their development, and if we think we're going to put in these 25 plays and okay, right now we're about ready for 12, then let's do those 12, and giving them space to grow. And if you do that and support them in that way, I think knowing that there's going to be some bumps in the road, but if you do that and have their back and give them the support, then I think they'll absolutely take off. Just like the other positions, it just gets magnified.
You've been known to turn to the basketball world for coaching as a coaching resource.
Yeah.
Why? Why is it translatable?
Basketball coaches have done such an amazing job of developing players, even better than we have as football coaches. And I always admired the development part. How do we get not just the young player from A to B, but how about the really good player trying to get to that next spot? And I thought the individual attention, the individual drills and skills to help them get to the next spot, I thought basketball nailed that. And I wish we had a professional G League, but we don't. So how can we create it in our own way? But I love the skill work that soccer does and baseball and hockey and basketball do. Their teams are smaller, but we also have big staffs. And so if we could find ways to help players develop and get better, that's what it's all about. And as a player, that's the coaches I know I trusted the most, the ones that helped me get better. And like, that's honestly our role. So how do we foster that and do that? And so guys in the basketball world, I've enjoyed watching practices. I can all the way back to like my Hofstra college coaching days and watching Jay Wright and say, this guy can coach. And like, yeah, no, he's really good. And all through that time, now into the NBA, and you'd be surprised, although we're playing different sports, so much of our locker room and environment and behaviors together, it's a lot alike.
Do you think that you, I hate to say drill, but focus on fundamentals, focus on the basic skills of football more than the average coach?
I can't speak for the other coaches,
yeah,
but I
maybe that
can
sounds-
say that like I do put that as a really, really high priority. And I think if the skills get better and the play style gets really strong together, then we will improve. And my goal every year is to play way better at the end of the season than we are at the beginning. And I think the best way that you do that is like your skills get better, and then in October they get better, November. And it doesn't have to be the same every time. Like next month, you may work on this one specific part of your game. Okay, I've worked hard at that, and now what else needs a little attention? And so I think if you keep adjusting and keep finding that skill work to do, you'll find like everybody starts to rise. And that's coaches as well. So for myself, like I'm still a work in progress in a lot of ways, and so is the rest of our staff for teaching and planning and communicating. And so how do we do that better to help the players get better? So I think like it never stops for me in that way.
That's a tremendous segue. You've talked so much about doing a 360-degree evaluation of yourself. How do you advise coaches to constantly assess themselves? What is the best way to do that?
Well, you want to make sure that you're learning, from all the experiences. And so what are the issues? And so I would recommend for all coaches a quick after action after each practice, after each game. And some people will just do the games. I think it's like in football especially, we practice way more than we play. And so if we want to play really well, then like the practices ought to be good. So each day, what did you like? What do you need to do different? What do you want to keep doing the same? And if you keep working on those things, the tweaks may be small, but if you really improve upon them and find it and get feedback, and sometimes I'll ask the players, like, what did you get better at? What did you like about today? And give me their feedback as well. And so if you keep doing that, that review just keeps getting a little sharper, a little more in focus, and it allows you to practice better, which should allow you to play better.
And you do that every single day after practice?
Every practice.
And do you ask that of your assistants as well?
I'll ask them, not every assistant, but what went great today? And I might ask a different assistant, what was one player that, you saw something that you liked? What's something that, needs our attention? What was the best part of your meeting? And that way, if I can then drill down, hey, tell me about so-and-so's meeting. This is what I saw at practice today. Because some of the times you don't always want to say everything's going great, because if you don't address the things that you don't like, then you're really not going to improve. So I think you have to address both sides. Sometimes I think people think like accountability has to be this like really hard, only when things aren't going well. But I'd like to point out, much like we did with the players, like that was an excellent goal line period. That was a really effective special teams day, and here's why. Or we missed the mark on this blitz pickup drill, we're going to do it again.
Visit harballcoachingacademy.org.